Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema are sticking with Republicans in defending the filibuster rules. Democrats were hoping the change would allow them to pass federal voting legislation, but the two Democrats would not budge.
Corporate media says that Joe Manchin is moderate. They claim he is a centrist. A simple examination of the facts shows a different story. While fighting legislation that would help the average person, he has remained a strong advocate for big pharma and big oil. Corporate media accepts this ridiculous idea of Joe Manchin being a moderate because it aligns with their pro-corporate views.
So inflation has actually turned way down. But what people probably don't know is what the effect has been on their incomes. I think most Americans still feel, and I understand why they feel it, that they've been left behind by inflation in terms of their purchasing power and their ability to buy things and provide for their families. But in actual fact, since the beginning of the Biden administration, for the average American, typical American, their income, even adjusting for inflation, is up 6.6%. That's not nothing. Obviously, we'd like it to be more, but it's not nothing. But here's what's even more surprising, if you're not surprised yet, which is that people at the bottom actually did better in relative terms than people at the top. People at the bottom saw their inflation-adjusted incomes go up by almost 14%, while people at the top saw their inflation-adjusted incomes go up by 1.6%. And we don't wish ill on anyone. We certainly want people everywhere to do well. But the idea that people at the bottom in the last 3 years have done better percentage-wise than people at the top should be very good news to Americans.
That's good news, Steve.
Nothing this corporate media host said reflects the lives of anyone I know. The real numbers reflect a different story.
Corporate profit margins hit record highs last year. You see, these corporations have so much market power, they can raise prices with impunity. So the underlying problem isn't inflation per se, it's lack of competition. Corporations are using the excuse of inflation to raise prices and make fatter profits.
Chevron, Exxon have doubled their profits. This isn't about inflation, this is about price gouging.
Or look at consumer goods. In April 2021, Procter & Gamble raised prices on staples like diapers and toilet paper, citing increased costs in raw materials and transportation. But P&G has been making huge profits. After some of its price increases went into effect, it reported an almost 25% profit margin. Looking to buy your diapers elsewhere? Well, good luck. The market is dominated by P&G and Kimberly-Clark, which not entirely coincidentally raised its prices at the same time. Another example, in April 2021, PepsiCo raised prices, blaming higher costs for ingredients, freight, and labor. It then recorded $3 billion in operating profits through September. How did it get away with this without losing customers? Pepsi has only one major competitor, Coca-Cola, which promptly raised its own prices. Coca-Cola recorded $10 billion in revenues in the third quarter of 2021, up 16% from the previous year. Food prices are soaring, but half of that is from meat, which costs 15% more than last year. There are only 4 major meat processing companies in America, which are all raising their prices and enjoying record profits. Get the picture? The underlying problem is not inflation, it's corporate power.
If your inflation cost is 4% and you increase your price by 4%, you don't get a 25% increase in profit. The real world is very different from what corporate media tells us.
So on inflation, as everybody knows, inflation soared up, got to 9.1% at its peak in 2022. But here's what's happened in 2023. Inflation, which is this black line, subsided, got down to 3.1% at the end of the year. But here's what maybe most people don't know, that within inflation, the price of goods, with television sets, toys, bicycles, things like that, has been basically zero for the last several months.
Does that sound real? Or does it sound like a magic act?